I remember the lighting first. Not the speeches. Not the music. Not the faces leaning toward me with practiced smiles. Just the warm yellow glow from the chandeliers in the banquet hall, and how soft everything looked beneath them, as if the room itself had decided to be kind for one last evening. It was my retirement party. 42 years at the hospital, and someone had decided that deserved a ballroom and 150 guests. People kept saying I looked younger than my age. People always say that when they're celebrating the end of your usefulness. I didn't mind. I had expected something smaller. A cake in the staff lounge, maybe a handshake from the administrator who never quite learned my name. Instead, there were tables with linen cloths, and a banner with my name stretched across the stage. And my daughter, Melissa, standing beside me. That part mattered more than the rest. She had arrived late, breathless, phone still in her hand, but she hugged me when she came in. A quick one arm. "You look nice, Mom," she said. That was enough for me. I had spent most of the evening moving slowly between groups of coworkers, former patients, and a few neighbors. People told stories. Some exaggerated my kindness, some exaggerated my patience. I let them. Retirement parties are mostly made of exaggeration. Melissa stayed near the bar. Every so often I glanced over. She scrolled through her phone. Spoke briefly with someone beside her. Then looked back at the room with the mild boredom of someone attending an event that didn't belong to them. I told myself she was tired. She had always hated formal gatherings. The first warning came like a quiet tap from inside my chest. Not pain, just pressure. A slow tightening that felt familiar enough to recognize but not yet frightening. I reached instinctively toward my purse. Except my purse wasn't on my shoulder. I had set it down earlier at the head table. Across the room, the pressure grew heavier, pressing outward beneath my ribs like someone inflating a small balloon inside my chest. I started walking toward the table. Halfway there, the room tilted. Not dramatically. Just enough that the floor seemed slightly farther away than it should have been. I remember thinking, very clearly, "Don't make a scene. Retirement parties already carry too much sentiment." I didn't want to become the final spectacle, so I tried to lower myself gently. My body disagreed. The floor came up faster than expected. Someone gasped. Then there was a strange quiet, like the air had been pulled out of the room. I could hear my own breathing. Shallow. Uneven. Melissa's shoes were right beside me. Black heels I had noticed earlier because they were new. I tried to say her name, but the words stuck halfway in my throat. She looked down at me. For a second I thought she would kneel. Instead she sighed. "Oh my God," she said loud enough for several people nearby to hear. "She does this." A few nervous laughs drifted through the crowd. Melissa crossed her arms. "She's probably fine," she continued. "My mom likes attention. It's kind of her thing." The words floated above me, while the pressure in my chest tightened another notch. Someone asked quietly, "Should we call someone?" Melissa waved a dismissive hand. "No, seriously. If you ignore it, she'll stop." I stared up at her face, trying to understand what I was seeing. Not anger, not cruelty, just irritation. Like I had interrupted something important. My vision began to narrow, the edges of the room dimming while the chandelier lights blurred together above me. People stood in a loose circle now. No one moved closer. They were watching Melissa. If the daughter said it wasn't serious, then perhaps it wasn't. My purse sat 20 feet away on the table. My medication inside. The distance might as well have been a mile. That's when a man stepped out from the back of the room. I didn't recognize him immediately. One of the later arrivals, maybe. Gray hair, tall, wearing a navy suit that looked slightly too practical for a party. He didn't ask permission. He simply walked through the small ring of people and knelt beside me. His hand touched my wrist. 2 fingers, precise and steady. "Mom," he said quietly, leaning closer. "Can you hear me?" I managed the smallest nod. "Where's your medication?" My eyes moved toward the table. He followed the movement. Then he looked up at the room. "Her purse," he said calmly. On the table. Someone bring it here. Melissa shifted her weight. Honestly, you don't need to. The man didn't look at her. Call emergency services, he added to the room. Something in his voice changed the atmosphere instantly. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain. A younger nurse from my department rushed forward and grabbed the purse. The man opened it quickly, scanning the contents until he found the small bottle I carried. Is this it? He asked. Another nod. He helped me take the tablet, his hand steady behind my shoulder while I swallowed. The pressure in my chest didn't vanish immediately. But the panic loosened, air began to move again. Around us the room had gone completely silent. Melissa stood a few steps away now, her arms no longer crossed. The man finally glanced in her direction. Not accusingly, just briefly. Then he returned his attention to me. We're going to wait for the paramedics, he said softly. Within minutes the distant wail of a siren filtered through the hotel entrance. People stepped aside as the paramedics came in with their equipment, their movements efficient and unhurried. They checked my vitals, asked a few questions, and lifted me carefully onto the stretcher. As they wheeled me toward the doors, I turned my head. Melissa was standing near the bar again. Very still. No one was speaking to her. The man who had helped me stood near the center of the room, hands in his pockets now, as if he had simply finished an ordinary task. Not a hero. Just someone who had refused to pretend nothing was happening. The ambulance doors opened. Cool night air brushed my face. And for the first time that evening, I understood something quietly and completely. The most painful moment of that night wasn't collapsing. It was realizing that the person I trusted most had decided not to see me. But the most important moment came right after. When a stranger did.